Welcome to the Critical Cinema Club. I'm Colin.
I'm Sean.
And what are we going to discuss first?
We are going to discuss one scene in particular that really upset me. So it's from X-Men Apocalypse. I'm going to take you on a little tour, a bit of a trip down memory lane, because I want everyone to feel disappointment in sort of real time. A bit like how we experienced it, because we watched this together, didn't we?
Yeah, we went to cinema to see this in Derby.
We did. So to give a bit of a background, I've loved X-Men since I was a kid. Did you watch the cartoon?
Yeah, on Saturday mornings I did, yeah.
Yeah, the Fox cartoon, I thought it was good. And the Spider-Man one, I thought they were awesome. So I had that love for X-Men instilled in me. And then X-Men 1 came out. So we're going really far back.
Yeah, well, was that 99, 98?
I think it was 2000.
2000?
Yeah,
it was early.
It was around that time. I was 14, 15.
Yeah, I was about 73, 74.
Yeah, you was already an old man by then, wasn't you?
Yeah, mentally, yeah.
So I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought a bit of a departure from what I was used to, but I thought really cool film.
Yeah, I mean, solid CGI, solid story, good action. It's up there like with Richard Donner's Superman.
But I think you'd make a good point, because I think this is sort of on the cusp of when CGI really took over, and I think a lot of films from sort of 2000 onwards just rely on special effects. I think, to build on the point you were just making, I think in the 90s you had to tell a good story and have good sort of practical effects, because you didn't have the CGI to knock back on. So I think that's why we're getting on this quite early, aren't we, on this podcast? But I think that's why a lot of films, I think they were basically a decline in quality since the millennium. But in any case,
so what you're saying are modern films are shy?
Basically, yeah, because they don't. And I know this is obviously X-Men was already an established sort of franchise by this point. I don't see many films coming out now where I think I've got to go see it.
I think we went to see Apocalypse. I remember seeing First Class, because Sean and I, we used to share a house, and I never saw First Class in cinema, and you showed me it on Blu-ray one Sunday afternoon when we had a hangover, as we constantly used to have.
X-Men 2 was like a cracking Chinese takeaway. I loved it. It's got everything in that I like, right? Really good. And then X-Men 3 was the rest of it that you have in the morning, which not as good, but still better than nothing.
The repercussion.
Yeah. So X-Men 3 gets a lot of hate, but I don't mind it. It's okay. You know, there's a couple of things that they changed that they ought not to have. So, you know, X-Men 3 comes and goes, and you had a couple of half-decent Wolverine movies, and you think maybe the series is petering out. But then, like you've just said, X-Men First Class, that probably my personal favourite of the X-Men movies. I really enjoyed it. I think it's because I didn't expect to enjoy it. I thought, it's a bit of a reboot, and it's got a few actors in it that you know him from other things, but not necessarily big action stars.
Yeah, I mean, James McAvoy was in Early Doors.
Yeah, I mean, I know him from Shameless.
Yeah.
Michael Fassbender, I'd only seen in Inglourious Bastards.
And 300.
Yeah. But which I didn't even realise that was the same guy. For ages, you know. But I think I went into watching that film without any expectations, which is a good thing sometimes, and it was better, much better than I was expecting. I thought, this is really good. And then you get into Days of Future Past, which for me, I think that's sort of like the Avengers Endgame of X-Men.
I enjoyed really that one more than First Class.
You know what? It's kind of like, it is a better movie, but you know when you've just got a personal favourite, because it's a bit like Infinity War. I prefer Infinity War to Endgame, and I think most people probably prefer Endgame. But
do you reckon that was the start of where the multiverse stuff started coming in? Because it's time travel, you've got James McAvoy's Picard, and then you've got all the older versions, you've got the younger versions, the older versions that you've got Gandalf, you know, you're used to these people, and then you've got Fassbender's version, and I struggle to see how they could be the same person, because, like, we'll come on to this in Apocalypse. Apocalypse is set only a few years before the first X-Men film. Now he aged quick.
Yeah, no disrespect to Ian McKellen, but a lot must have happened in the 90s for him to catch up to that. He must have had a rough decade. But no, interestingly, like Days of Future Past, it was actually a comic book event from I think the early 80s, if I'm not mistaken. But it was actually Kitty Pryde who was the main character in that story. But obviously, so they changed it to Wolverine.
Because of Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
Why not?
And it works. I mean, You know, it was a really, really, really good film, and I sat and watched that, and I thought, they've done the impossible. They've managed to have the highs and lows, and this is probably the best one yet.
Yeah.
And then at the end of Days of Future Past, and they've had this big send off for a lot of the older cast members and things, and then you think, wow, that was really satisfying, and a bit like Endgame. Maybe they should have stopped there.
Yeah.
I think.
But you can do one more. You can have your Spider-Man Far From Home.
Yeah, you can. I prefer to think of these films as like an epilogue. Watch them if you want to, but you can just stop. But at the end of Days of Future Past, I don't know if you can remember, they have like a teaser, and they show. I can't remember exactly how it is, but you see these 4 characters on horses, and straight away you think, oh, that's the 4 horsemen.
Yeah. Ric Flair, Arn Anderson,
yes,
Brian Pillman.
The multiverse crossover we really wanted and needed. And you see these pyramids being rearranged, and just something from that, I thought, I don't know. I'm not sure. I feel this. I'm already getting. My spider sense is already going off that the next movie might not be as good. But then, it was obvious from that clip that when they announced the next one would be X-Men Apocalypse, I thought, brilliant, because I don't know if you remember from the cartoon, the guy who portrayed Apocalypse in the cartoon, he'd got, I've got his name here actually, so John, I'm going to...
Sean did research.
I did research.
Yeah.
Well, I do actually know this guy, I didn't know his name. He's the guy who is Count Boltar in the original... Battlestar Galactica.
Oh yeah, it was in Star Trek, the original series.
Yeah, it was cool.
The first Klingon.
Yeah, he was, and he's someone, especially when you hear him in the cartoon, he's got this gravitas about him. I don't know if you can play a clip from the show or anything, but they obviously do something to his voice to make it sound a lot deeper, but he's got this like epic gravitas quality to it, where this guy should have done Shakespeare or something. He was a great actor.
He
was a really good actor. So you've got this voice, and we've really gone off on tangent, but voice acting in the cartoons in the 80s and 90s was just top quality.
Yeah.
When you think about Transformers and
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles,
the Spider-Man cartoon and
X-Men. Oh yeah,
every character
Batman.
was
Kevin Conroy.
Conroy passed away. He was Batman, wasn't he? So
and Mark Hamill as the Joker.
Yeah. So if you think of John Colicos, hopefully I've pronounced that right. So he was in that same vein. He really nailed it. And Apocalypse himself, right? If you think of this character who's like larger than life, he's like 10 foot tall or something, towers over these mutants. Even Magneto has to help the X-Men defeat him because he's just this all-powerful. You think, how on earth are they going to do this character justice? Because I think a bit like the Thanos problem, if you will. How do you bring a character like Thanos to the big screen and not be ridiculous? And Apocalypse was up first. Although we had seen Thanos, he looked very CGI up to this point, but Infinity War was a character like that done right, like really, really good.
Yeah.
Whereas I saw online that the first picture had been released of what Oscar Isaac would look like as Apocalypse, because originally when we heard Oscar Isaac, I thought, oh, well, okay. I don't know who
in everything at that time, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he's a good actor. I do like him.
Oh yeah, I like him as well.
But I wouldn't have. It wasn't who I pictured, and I don't know who I did picture. But if you go from what we've just talked about from this guy who portrayed him voice acting, you'd think someone who's like a Brian Blessed type character, just Gordon's alive. But they showed this picture. And someone put a comment online saying he looks like a Power Rangers villain.
I know, look like Ivan Ooze.
That's exactly what they said.
Yeah, like Ivan Ooze. Yeah,
yes, thank you. But you had these pictures side by side. You couldn't see it, and so the film is already a year or two out, and I'm already the disappointment. I can see it coming down the train tracks. It's coming, and I think I'm going to watch it anyway. But
it's like already too much of a good thing, now, isn't it?
Yeah. So
like Star Trek.
Yes. So other casting announcements come out, and I'm sorry this is taking a really long time, but I want everyone else to feel all the disappointment. But the scene I'm going to get to is the cherry on top of the turd cake that I'm describing to you right now. So they cast Sophie Turner as Jean Grey, which I couldn't see, apart from her having auburn hair or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, she looked the role, but she wasn't.
I didn't know she did. I'm honest. If I'm honest, I don't. Not, but I think this is the problem when you have an idealised version of a character.
Yeah.
So the cartoon we've talked about sort of cemented in my mind how all these characters should be.
It's your go-to, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's a bit like the Spider-Man Fox cartoon has always informed how I feel Spider-Man should be portrayed. But,
so I like, was it Famke Janssen?
Famke Janssen, yeah.
She was in Star Trek.
She was the perfect mate.
She was the perfect mate.
She was also a Bond girl.
One of Pierce Brosnan's. I'm not a big fan of James Bond.
GoldenEye is my favourite James Bond movie. You know.
Is it?
Yeah, I really liked it. Yeah, it's got Sean Bean in it as well.
Oh wow, yeah. Sean Bean's a winner in everything. Though,
yeah.
You know, Sean Bean.
Spoiler, not spoiler. He obviously dies in the movie, like every.
Yeah, but he dies in everything he's in, though.
Yeah. But
if he survives anything, it's like apocalypse is on its way.
Yeah,
as it is now.
Yeah. Then they announced the casting for Cyclops. I'm going right round houses, but I'm giving it everybody. I'm laying it on. The guy who they cast as Cyclops, he was the guy at Ready Player One.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah.
I couldn't see Cyclops in that kid at all.
No, he's not. No, James Marsden.
No, because Cyclops is meant to be this voice.
James Marsden.
Something like that, yeah. But Cyclops is meant to be this authoritative Boy Scout figure, like middle management. I always think, of him, there to carry out the orders. This is for the good of the team. This is what we're doing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's good of the team.
Yeah. So all this is coming, and I think, right. Well, in terms of Apocalypse, I'm thinking maybe this is his first form, and he's going to become the Apocalypse that I remember. When they started doing commercials, like tie-ins for the movie, this is when I knew we were in trouble with X-Men Apocalypse, because it hurts me to talk about it.
What you can't see is Sean's crying.
Yeah, I want to show you on the doll where this video touched me. Okay,
right.
So this
you're going to show me this video, but we're not going to be able to play this on YouTube.
No, but I will describe it.
I'll try and cut it in a way where people will understand what, and we'll elaborate after.
So I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I thought it was a joke, but it's not. It's real. They did a movie tie-in commercial with the X-Men and Manchester United. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't. And why have I not seen this?
It's incredible.
Why though?
If I didn't laugh, I'd cry. You ready? I'm already annoyed, right? Because they have Manchester United players in it who shouldn't have even been born yet, because it's set in the 80s.
Right. Okay. So they should have had Brian Robson and. Yeah. I can't think of any more from the 80s.
You should have had George Best running on.
George Best, yeah.
But so we can't put the video in this podcast. But basically, the crux of it is they're in Cerebro, which is the machine that Xavier uses to find other mutants, and they've set the scene up. So we need help. We need to call on other mutants to help with this apocalypse problem we've got. And he goes to contact someone, and Beast leans in and says, "What about David De Gea?" What? How am I supposed to... And they're in character. This is...
Oh, our takeaways here. Yeah. I'm going to have to pause this.
Ain't over yet.
No.
We're lovely and all.
Where were we?
Manchester
United.
Yeah. Even though it's a funny commercial, it is played as a funny thing, but I'm like, what are you doing? Well, the icing on the cake is Wayne Rooney, and he has a speaking part. And he goes, "Hello, Charles." And I couldn't... I mean, talk about undermining your...
That was a great Wayne Rooney impression.
I mean, this should have been his getaway into Hollywood, right here.
Yeah.
But what really kills it for me is like, we need your help against Apocalypse. He goes, "Apoca who?" I'm like, what? This is meant to be your villain you're putting forth as this unstoppable monster, and he's already a joke. He's already a joke. Film not even started yet.
So what's funny is that they've inserted him into the film where they're all stood there and he's there in his full United kit.
Yeah, he's going to dribble around Apocalypse, is he, and score a goal? The commercial finished, and I was just faced with this black screen on my phone with my own eyes looking back at me, and I could see the disappointment.
Why is this a thing? I just feel like my life needs putting back together now. So I want to hear more about Apocalypse. Hopefully that will do it.
Well, those little pieces that are left, they're going to be broken down even further. Think about T-1000 in Terminator, where you get shot to little pieces after being frozen. That's
Hasta la vista.
So at the moment, you've fallen over and your arms come off, and you're looking at your arm, your legs come off, and you think that's as bad as it gets, but I'm about to shoot you now.
So I'm pretty much the Black Knight from Monty Python, Holy Grail. Come back, I'll bite your legs off.
Yeah.
Great. Right. Sorry, we digress.
Yeah. So me and Colin going to watch the film, got the popcorn and all that, and I already know it's going to be crap, but because I'm such a masochist, I think I'll go anyway. Because even a bad X-Men movie is better than, some other crap, isn't it, that you're not bothered about. So we went in, we watched it. The film, I was laughable because, we talked about how Apocalypse was in the cartoon and how epic that voice was. And then you've got Oscar Isaac in, "Hello, my child." And I thought, what's it? It's like Apocalypse has got
It's
cold.
like salad fingers.
He is. But it's like Apocalypse with a cold. That's how I always remember. It's like he woke up and he'd already got the flu from when he was in ancient Egypt.
And it came out before COVID.
Well, maybe he brought it with him. That's the Apocalypse. Best bit of marketing ever. So yeah, the film happened. There are people out there who like it. And, I'm not going to.
It's got its fans.
It's okay in pieces. There are moments that are cool. But again, you've got Magneto. This is early 80s now. Why didn't they give him white hair, at least? Just give me that.
He's not far off from where he is in 2000, though, is he? What is he, like 12 years?
Well, the only thing that the get out clause there is in 2000 it says in the near future, right? So we don't actually know.
So it could have been 2005.
It could have been 2001. But, there's still 20 years or so between those two, but what really the next film, which we won't talk about because you need a whole podcast for the Dark Phoenix.
I haven't even watched that one. I can't bring myself to watch it.
Honestly, it is so bad. This is a masterpiece compared to that. That's set in the early 90s, and he still looks the same.
Yeah.
So he's got 8 or 9 years to turn into Gandalf.
I don't want to. I do actually want to know what happened to him for that transformation.
But it's funny because...
Is it the same thing that happened to Palpatine? You got a bit of a lightning in his face.
Well, somehow he has returned. But, do you know what?
So it said Apocalypse.
Yeah. Somehow he has returned. When you go back and watch that first X-Men film, it's funny because you think of Ian McKellen as the age he is now.
Yes.
But he does actually look a lot younger.
Oh, yeah.
You can see, actually, he must have only been in his 50s. He doesn't actually look that old in there, so... You have to sort of discard Ian McKellen as he is now.
Must have been around the same time he did Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it was. He had a good couple of years there.
He did it, yeah. I mean, I quite like Ian McKellen. I find him quite entertaining.
Yeah, he's good in extras.
Very good in extras. And if you've not seen his episode of Extras, go watch it.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It describes what it is to do acting.
So Fellowship of the Ring was 2001, and they went over to film those back to back, didn't they? So it was there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So it mustn't have been that long after finishing up on X-Men where he went over to... And obviously he's wearing a lot of makeup and he looks far older than Lord of the Rings because of the big white beard. And,
yes.
But,
Yeah, I don't know what the timeline is there because I know Did they spend like 3 years filming Lord of the Rings or something? Yeah, so back to Apocalypse movie. It's dreadful, right? By my standards. They've got, things that shouldn't be happening in there, like... They did this in the original trilogy, actually, where they had Mystique rescue Nightcrawler from this horrible situation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, are they finally going to address the fact that, I don't even know, Mystique is actually Nightcrawler's mother, biological mother?
Yeah.
Right? And no, not in this series of films. But to be fair, they didn't do that in the last films either. Apocalypse recruits the first 4 mutants he comes across, and even that's a bit... But
you're a mutant, you're in.
You're basically right, and I think one of the first ones he gets Angel, the guy with the wings, right?
Yeah,
that's his power. He's got wings. Why would you pick him? You wouldn't get him in your reserves if it was a football team. And he's picked. Oh yes, my child. And he gives him these metal wings, and right now I can fly.
I've got nothing to add to this other than I'm trying to remember, and it's what's it? I forget his name.
It's the guy off EastEnders, right?
Was he in EastEnders?
I think he's Ian Beale's son. In EastEnders. So basically...
That's your pinnacle, that Ian Beale's son.
So, Apocalypse has thought, I've got a whole world to choose. I'll choose Ian Beale's offspring to join me in my quest for global domination.
I bet you've been headhunted by Ian Beale.
Yeah, it goes all the way to Albert Square. Goes in the old Vic.
It is him, it's Ben Hardy.
He's been in a couple of other things since then, but it's just...
I was thinking of the guy who played him in X-Men 3, Last Stand.
Well, thank you for bringing that up, because again, you see Angel and you think, well, hang on, Angel was a teenager in X-Men 3, which is set 30, 40 years later. They don't even dress it. He's just there as well. Also, and they just think, you know what, people that... Like Vince McMahon. Yeah, they won't remember that.
They will remember that.
They will remember that.
Of course they will remember. Ben Foster played him in
he did.
Ben Foster's brilliant in everything. In Ben Foster and what's her name who played Mystique in The Punisher with Thomas Jane.
So I won't, it feels like I am, but I'm not going to lay out every little thing in the film.
The thing is, we're trying to pick out good things about this, but we keep having to talk about other films to pick out good things.
Yeah. So to sort of frame this scene, I am coming to, I promise. I have to describe what happened to make this scene necessary, which is Apocalypse. He blows up the mansion and kills Havoc in the process, which is Cyclops. And he was in First Class. He's one of the main characters. He's killed.
They had to recycle the speed scene from the previous film, where Quicksilver's running around. He's trying to save people. Everything's in slow motion.
This is my problem with it because.
But they did that in the last film because it was a gimmick.
Yeah, but that worked then because.
But it didn't work in this one. They used it again because it worked so well in the last one.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is. In the last one, it was good because it was a break. They're breaking Magneto out of prison. It's a cheeky little,
and we haven't seen that before. But because it worked so well in the last film, I thought, right, we've got to bring it back for this film.
Total tonal shift, right? So
yeah,
Havoc's just died. The X-Men, everyone's in tears, and then Sweet Dreams comes on, and it's Quicksilver, and it's a funny scene, but you're still sort of reeling from this death that's just taken place, and I'm all about what is. Do
you know what that again? What this is. It's the Guardians of the Galaxy effect because it's stylised music and it's got to be quippy and flashy. That all started in Guardians of the Galaxy, which, don't get me wrong, was brilliant, but it meant that every comic book film after that.
But you know what? It would have been okay if a major character hadn't just died. So if it was the mansion just blowing up and he's got to go in and save everyone, that's do you know what? In and of itself, it was quite cool. But. He does all this and he's like, yeah, look at me, how good I am. And then they go, oh, look, Havoc's just died. Orcs, didn't see him in there. Not so easy. But I think he'd already died by that.
I think maybe Quicksilver did it himself whilst wearing some Palpatine eyes.
Yes, maybe. but
let's leave that one there.
Yeah. We are now, thankfully, 20 minutes or whatever later, I'm really sorry, everyone. But we're now getting to the scene which, I'm already like, the villain's been defeated and I'm just like... I've watched a solid 5 out of 10 movie here. It was okay, but really poor by the standards of the previous couple of outings. But so you've got you're well into the third act. It's tying up everything in a bow now, aren't they, to finish off the movie? And they have this scene where Jean Grey.
I watched the scene this morning,
and me and Colin are watching this together, and I'm watching what's happening, and I'm not believing what I'm seeing, but it's happening. Jean Grey and Magneto, I get why they're doing the scene from a story point of view. They're working together to mend fences and whatever.
Yeah, they certainly did mend the freaking fence.
And the rest. So what they're doing is, for anyone who's not seen it, they somehow rebuild not a house, Brian, a whole mansion with, I assume, all the underground business as well that they've got down there.
All the drainage.
Well, this is my problem. So they're rebuilding this mansion, right? She's doing her telekinetic thing where she's bringing all the bits of wooden together. And Magneto, I don't know exactly what he's doing because how much of that house is metal, I don't know. But
brickwork's got lead lining.
Or somehow, someone will explain with some magnetic fields he's doing something. But how do they know where everything's going? I mean, there's no. Yeah. I don't see anyone with a plan. I don't see anyone in a hard hat and a high-vis vest,
I'm going to jump in here because this is what I do for a living. Is an architectural technologist. I draw all the plans. I'd be out of a job if this stuff were happening in real life.
Yeah, and I work in the utility sector, right? So she's doing all this, right? And I'm like, where's all the pipe? Has she got all the waste pipes coming? How do they know where they're going? Who's wiring up the house?
Just imagine getting into the house. The stairs just lead up to nothing. And then you go into a couple of rooms, you've got a radiator on the ceiling.
You need planning permission to do something like this, don't you? So, bearing in mind this massive mansion is just it'll be on the bloody news. There's no one there coordinating because they had helicopters coming in.
HSE will be all over that.
Oh my god, yeah. Or OSHA is it in America?
Whatever.
But there's nobody there. I might explain this. Right.
Well, I have to jump in with another little story here because we left the cinema and went to the pub, and it must only be about 10-minute walk from the cinema to the pub. And Sean was red in the face. He was that angry about this. And when we got to the pub, we knew quite a few people in there. It was our not our local, but our regular pub.
Our regular home.
A regular home. I don't think there was a single person in that pub that didn't hear Sean's rant at some point during that evening. To the point where I'm pretty sure ticket sales for that film went down after Sean went into that.
Good. It's rant-worthy, though, isn't it? Because I already had a growing disappointment before I went into the film.
Yeah.
Then that disappointment blossomed into the film that we saw. And then at the end, we had this scene, which just basically just sharted.
I was going to say, it is literally just a follow-through from the wet fart.
It is. It is. And they want me... It's an insult to my intelligence that I'm going to start sitting and watch them build this house with no... How do they do that? Anyone with half a brain knows you can't just chop planks of wood together. I mean, if you and me did that, and we didn't have powers, but we have a bit of know-how how houses get built and things, and it's a mansion, mine, it's a big old bloody thing, building, it would take us months. Even if we did have powers and we had the plans, it will still take months or weeks or whatever. So the fact that she's just stretching her arms out, right, and Magneto, he's stretching his arms out.
What, a bit of lead lining, I'll just do that bit there.
Yeah. At no point does he stop and go, oh, hang on, we need to put the flashing on. Or whatever. It just happens.
Oh, you know what's going to happen, right? If someone actually ever does listen to this, or, a few people, hopefully, touch wood.
The two of you that are listening.
I want someone to write in the comments about how we've missed the point completely, and how it's about connecting things together. But what
From a storyline point of view, yes.
But what I will say, it goes to show there's no consequences. I know the major character died.
That's right.
It's like Star Trek 3 blowing up the Enterprise and Kirk's son dying. Spoilers. That was the sacrifices he had to make to complete his mission.
His character arc. Right. But it does bring about, in the second film, when he says you've never actually faced death, have you?
Yeah.
But it's ironic then.
It hits harder.
It's hard because it is his son and it's the guy who spoke the line and he makes all his sacrifices and what have I done?
Yeah.
And
but with this, it just shows there's no consequence. We can blow up the main... It is essentially their Enterprise. And it just gets put back to a bit like Star Trek Beyond. They just blow up the Enterprise like it means nothing and they just get another one at the end.
Well, the thing is, they blow it up, but we know it's in future movies, so... Does Xavier get some contractors in, or what?
Yeah, well, exactly. There's no consequence with that. And I think that's one of the biggest problems about having a film set in the past with younger actors playing those characters, and you know which characters survive.
Yeah.
I suppose that's where you think, well, it goes over in another timeline.
Well, there is a thought that Days of Future Past perhaps created a branch in time, and this is like a new version of events. But they did the same thing with Star Trek. But to build on your point, they are treading over
that trope has been overused.
Yeah, and it's the same with we want to see. We talk about this all the time with Star Trek, but I don't want to see stories from back. We've seen all that.
Yeah.
And we want to know what's coming next. So, but I suppose in a way, this is why I say it's better to just stop at Days of Future Past because what they do, that is an ending.
And I guess what else it is, that film kind of, it was in, I suppose it's still happening now, but it's in a time where it's got to be member berries. Oh, do you remember this? Do you remember that? We've got to add all this back in because you can remember it from 2 films ago, or you can remember it from 20 years ago.
Yeah. But it does bring it in nicely because you did have a few loose ends, like, Jean Grey getting killed and Whale Cyclops. I mean, he needed some time back on the screen because that was awful what happened to that character.
Oh, yeah, I mean, James Marsden went on to being Superman Returns, which filmed practically at the same time, so his role got cut down. It robbed the character of a good ending, if you will.
Yeah, and not to veer too far off, Cyclops is one of the main characters, but the point is...
He's the leader.
He's the leader, but all of the X-Men are the main characters, but X-Men 3 really just became another Wolverine movie, more or less.
They overdid Wolverine.
They did. I'm hoping when they do eventually reboot them, I hope it is a bit more of a team.
Yeah.
Because a lot of... like, if we talk about Storm for a second... What does she actually do in all those movies she's in? Not much.
She's got some philosophical lines.
Well, she's the one who in X-Men 3 says, well, no, we're mutants and we're proud. Yeah, but she's, bloody gorgeous, and she can, as the saying goes, she can make little puffy clouds, and so it's alright for her.
My wife can do that. Right, I think it's about time we had a quick break and move on to our next film. Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. This
noble quest,
well,
by the way.
It was a failed quest as well. This film is a mess, and again, it's just the Superman films as a whole. They just get worse and worse and worse. I mean, the first one is a classic. It's one of the best comic book films ever made. I know a lot of people don't like Superman. They all think, oh, he's boring, he can do anything. Superman was the original superhero as such. He was the archetype.
Really good movie. I love that scene in there, where Lois dies, and you think, God, even Superman couldn't save her, but then he flies around the world and turns...
his passion, his anger.
I didn't know Superman could do that, but that was really cool. I was into that. I enjoyed that.
Well, if you thought that was a new power that they just brought in for the film, wait until you hear what happens in Superman 4. Now, the rights for the film were bought out by Canon, and you've heard of Canon Films. And the film started out with a budget of about 38 million, and back in 1987, 1988, that was a lot. It's
a lot now.
They cut the budget down to 17 million, and what kind of came out of that was the special effects were the first things to go. So you use the same shot of Superman flying. It's literally just a cardboard cutout of him coming towards the screen about 50 times throughout the whole film. I mean, they could have got more than one shot of that, surely. Apparently he did an extra 6 months of filming special effects flying sequences, and they cut most of it out. So anybody who's knows the story of Superman 4 will know it's about 40 minutes of footage cut out from the film. I don't know if any of that footage would have made the film any better. It had your man from Casualty as an earlier version of Nuclear Man. There's a bit of a connection between X-Men Apocalypse and Superman 4 with doing something without seeing the plans. So in one part of it, this isn't the scene I'm going to talk about, but I just want to kind of lay the connection.
Oh, don't worry. I have 30 minutes on mine, mate. You crack on.
Well, yeah. So, Nuclear Man comes down and he starts throwing fireballs from his hands and blowing up parts of the Great Wall of China. Superman comes down, catches somebody from falling, and then rebuilds it with his vision. I suspect that he was supposed to rebuild it in super fast, even though he wouldn't have had any mortar or any, bricks that weren't broken or anything like that,
Well, maybe he had Jean Grey there on hand.
But yeah, it's just a power of just blue vision. I can rebuild walls. The scene that I want to talk about is towards the end of the film, where a Nuclear Man steals a woman called Lacey Warfield.
Why has he got really long nails?
I don't know. He's Fashion Week or something.
We talked about this off air, but I haven't actually sat and watched this film. I watched 1, 2, 3, and I saw what was going to be happening in the fourth one. I thought, I ain't watching that. But for this episode, I did sit and watch this scene that Colin's about to describe, and it's even worse than I can imagine.
It is one of the worst things I've ever seen. Now, just to caveat this ever so slightly, there was a lot of the budget was sliced in half. But does that mean that the script had to say we need to write something in that is completely nonsensical? So he takes Lacey Warfield into space.
Was she strong in the Force, like Princess Leia?
And that's one thing. She's surviving in space, and then Superman decides, right, I'm going to give this moon a quick shift. So he pushes the moon, so it's blocking the sun. He must have got a little bit lucky with where the moon was in the sky at that particular time, where the Earth was in relation to the sun. And he just moves the moon, and there's no... The Nuclear Man's being a dickhead, but what he's just done has probably made things a lot worse with tides and things like that.
Oh my god, yeah. Causing worldwide flooding and things. But, something I noted on that scene, which was... I don't know if I caught it because I got fresh eyes, but I don't know why, you can tell me why, but it looks like he's buried under the moon or something.
Hammers him into the moon in an earlier scene, because they have a really slow motion fight, and you can see the black curtains in the background.
Right. But what I noted was, when Superman breaks free, he takes a big deep breath. Right? He breaks free and he's like...
Yeah, as if he couldn't breathe underneath the surface of the moon.
He still can't breathe, so I don't know what he's doing. And does he even need to breathe? I don't know.
Well, they're in space.
No, but does he need to breathe, Superman?
I don't think so.
Because he flies around in space anyway, doesn't he?
Although it does annoy me in the cartoon.
Doesn't he fly to Krypton and things?
Well, in a spaceship, yeah.
I thought he just flew.
He can fly in space, but it's the yellow sun that gives him his power, you see. Same as Nuclear Man, but he's a little bit more excessive
but
with
the deep breath thing...
Yeah, it didn't make any sense.
What's happening there?
But in the cartoon, he's got an underwater scuba diving suit, whatever you call it. What's the point?
It's just like when you see... Because there's a few toys out there with Spider-Man with the motorbike and things like that. He didn't...
What's he need that for?
I don't know.
Like the Japanese version when he's got like a Megazord or whatever it is.
Well, because he can't do anything in the Japanese version, can he? They just turn the camera sideways and let him crawl around on the floor and make it look like a building.
That's what they used to do.
And then he throws like a big rope, like a big net over someone.
Anyway, back to Superman, the quest for logic. Now, he moves the moon, and God knows what that's creating on Earth.
Do you know? Just a quick question. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, because I watched this video about this guy's powers, and I saw this quick bit of scene where he's with Lex Luthor, and then he walks into the shade and just crumples down.
Yeah.
Why don't you just throw a blanket on him?
Well, yeah. Why do that?
Just throw a duvet on him, and it's done. But
you know,
instead of pissing about with all the moon and that, just fly down with a bit of tarpaulin, right, and just drop it on his head.
Yeah.
And it's over.
No,
That's it. Scene.
The quest for logic. They failed. Who in their right mind passed that script off by saying, yeah, we're going to go into space, and then he's going to, like, collapse in space because there's no light, and she's going to be dangling off him at a cardboard cutout of, you know, that stock image of the Earth, and she's going to be dangling like she's falling.
Yeah. Even though she should be floating around. I think there'll be some people listening to this thinking, listen, it's just a superhero movie, don't worry about it, he's already flying around. I think when you've got these, a bit like the X-Men one we just talked about, when you have these amazing things that are happening, you have to have some sort of semblance of realism.
Yeah.
You know, because if you've got that suspension of disbelief that you need to be able to believe someone can use telekinetic powers or fly around, but if you're going to cut corners and do silly things that just don't fly,
well, yeah.
You know, then it takes you out of the moment, because, like, you know,
To quote the great Joey Tribbiani, it makes me want to rip one of my arms off just so I've got something to throw at somebody. It just makes me want to go.
Do you think you could rip your own arm off?
No.
We could try. I've got some scissors and I can get my saw out the bag. Imagine you go home.
We're a really bad end to this podcast, I would have thought.
Yeah, you get home. How did the podcast go?
Welcome to the Critical A&E Club. Anyway, that's all I want to say on that. I'm going to pause that there. Thank you very much for listening to myself, Colin.
And so sorry to everyone who had to listen to that. I've been Sean.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.